Hello everyone, this is Enrique and I'm recording this short video today because I wanted to discuss this text with you in the video conference that we were supposed to have today. And I selected this text by Lawton, one of the lead writers for New Scientist, and I think is a great example or a simple text that could serve as an example for good rhetorical analysis. The first thing that you gotta understand is that when you're performing a rhetorical analysis, you're not even discussing the ideas presented by the author. You're not arguing, you're not trying to interpret the ideas or the message that the author is given. Instead, you're focusing on the purpose of the article, the reasons behind the article, and so you're trying to untangle the different means of persuasion that the author uses, and you try somehow to see whether the article is effective or not. That's why I tend to see the rhetorical analysis as the act of writing about writing. So you are somehow discerning the means of persuasion that the author has used. And I chose the article by Lawton because I have a conflict of interest here. This article is about cheese, and if you check the title, a simple reading of the title, you have the strong ideological message in the article, the truth about cheese, the terrible cause of our favorite food. And so you know that something bad is on the way, something bad is coming. And I gave you the two forms, that one form that Dr. Perry uses to analyze articles or writing with the purpose of performing a rhetorical analysis. And the first one is the soapstone. The soapstone form is the one that I use to try to get the highlights of the text. In this case, the speaker, the audience, the occasion, the subject, the purpose, the tone. And after reading the article like 2 or 3 times, I realized that the speaker is essential for you to understand who the speaker is. The article that you're analyzing now. In this case, Lawton has a degree in biochemistry, which somehow qualifies him as an authority on the topic that he's writing about. And he has a master in science in communication. He's one of the leading writers in New Scientist. He's a star columnist, feature writer in New Scientist, and he has received a number of awards. So in terms of credibility, the author, you know that is a human source. He's someone that you would trust, that you would accept to read, because it's a trustworthy source. The audience, New Scientist is a magazine, a popular science magazine, very famous, very old, in the 1950s, and it's a British magazine as opposed to Scientific American, which is North American. But in this case, New Scientist, the audience is people that want to know more about science without necessarily being expert. So in this case, it's a publication that has a long reach. It's like lots of people, different walks of life, and so it's effective because it reaches people, so it has an impact in that sense. The occasion of the article, okay, you know the occasion. The occasion is now it's very popular that people are not eating meat anymore. They are, and some people are trading off meat for cheese, and because they think that by eating cheese the animal doesn't suffer. So, but the subtitle here, Grant says, it might be hard to swallow, but if you think that cheese is better than meat for both animal welfare and the environment, you have to reconsider. So right from the outset, you know that the message is here. So the occasion is part of it, and the subject, the text, is also a part of the contemporary trend of trying to make animal meat and dairy products obsolete as a way to solve the many problems that we have with with the industrialized food system, the poor public health, the systematic animal cruelty, and the methane emissions that are accelerating the pace of climate change. So this is part of the context. Is the occasion is perfect. Many people are making the switch one for the other because they want to be better people. They want to contaminate less. They don't want animals to suffer. And so the question is, the purpose of the article, convincing of the need to stop eating cheese altogether, because cheese, as after he conducts his research, and realizes that cheese is a worse offender than meat. And the tone is familiar. He appeals to reason, to logic, to ethics. So this is my notes after I used the soapstone form, and it also caught my attention. The picture. If you see, the picture is like a mouth-watering picture. You have, if you like cheese, here you have it all. An overview would give you different types of cheese with healthy products like fruit, like celery, like apples, like grapes and honey. And so if you take a look at the details in the picture, you see the cheese, which is the culprit, which is the bad guy here in the story, with healthy elements or food, and in an attempt to wash up the image of the cheese in this case. So in this case, the author uses this picture as a way to create cognitive dissonance. When you see the picture, you say, okay, yes, I want that. I want to eat that cheese. The cheese is great. The apples are great. So, but when they couple the picture with the title of the article, then there is a cognitive dissonance, a total cognitive dissonance here. And the psychology majors in my class know what a cognitive dissonance is. When you are feeling some sort of discomfort because something that you're seeing or that you're doing is at odds with your principle somehow. And so in this case, it's like the alluring picture together with the message that this is a killer. And so this is the purpose. The purpose is to shake the foundations, the same way the foundations have been shaken today after the earthquake. I heard that there was an earthquake in Ecuador. And here you have it. You have the optic form might help you understand why the author is using this picture as a way to have an emotional impact on the audience. And so I sort of describe here, and if you read my comment number 2, what just explained, by contrasting a strong title with an alluring picture, Lawton manages to create a sense of cognitive dissonance. And then the article is very powerful. It's very powerful, and he does it all in the book to try to convince you. He begins with a great beginning. Notice here the entrance. It's a story. He writes a personal story. The approach is very personal. He say, okay, I'm Gran and I'm a cheeseholic. And the meaning that you know the expression from the AA meetings that hello, I'm Enrique and I'm alcoholic, is like you introduce yourself that way, and then in a way to capture the sympathy of the audience, the people that are surrounding you, the group of alcoholics as well that are there for you. But in this case, he's using the catchphrase to say, I'm a cheesaholic, and then I know you are too, and so I'm talking to you. And then he does it all here. He presents a story, and then he ends the story here, if you read the story, like when he told his colleagues at the newspaper, at the magazine, that he was doing the story about cheese and how bad cheese is for the environment and for animal rights. And then he said, my colleague said, no, please don't do that. Don't do that story, because they felt guilty about it. So in this article, Lawton does it all. And then if you want to read the article together with the note I wrote on the side, you see that I'm marking all, or not all, many, because there were many strategies that he used And so to get to this thesis at the end that says that if you care for animals, for animal welfare, and for the environment, you have to cut off eating cheese altogether. Like, it's a very drastic solution that he proposes. But this comes in line with the trend today of going green, because it's putting the burden of what is happening in the environment on the shoulders of the individual. And I sort of disagree with that, and I'm going to make comment on it at the end. So he presents it all, and I noted here all the different strategies that he uses, all the statistics, the authority figure that he interviews, the story that he presents, the stylistic devices that he uses in order to make a point about the article, to make a point, and the empathy, for example, here when he tells the story of a cow from the day the cow was born until it was taken to the slaughterhouse. And unfortunately, this cow died before he went through the auction. And so by doing this, he's trying to raise awareness. He's trying to make people feel empathy for the issue. And for example, I want to get to this picture here because it's an incredible picture. This is the silence of the lamb. This is you can judge for yourself the emotional appeal of this picture. A flock of sheep staring at the camera, the bleating of a sheep, and then if you remember the movie The Silence of the Lamb, there is a famous line in the movie when the character played by Jodie Foster remembers the crying of the lambs before being slaughtered. She says there was a terrifying silence after the deed, after they had been slaughtered. And so this is a way to appeal to the reader. This is animal cruelty. We should stop doing this. And at the end, he concludes presenting alternatives like vegan, cheese. He makes a list, and he proposes this is what we can do to be better people and not put animals through suffering, and then stop contaminating the way we are right now. And at the end, he concludes with this clincher that he says, I think cheese is the hardest thing for people to give up. He says, I have never heard anyone say I miss milk or yogurt, but people miss cheese. And then he says, I will miss it terribly, because meaning that he won't eat cheese anymore. But then hard cheese, I mean, there's nothing we can do. It's like I find the proposal quite excessive. And what I do here is I wrote a rhetorical analysis introduction for you, and I divided the introduction what I would do if I were to write a rhetorical analysis introduction or essay analyzing Lawton. Notice here that I highlighted in blue the hook, in yellow the transitional sentence, and in green the thesis statement, the analytical thesis statement, where I focus on what Lawton does in the article. Remember, you have to remember something, keep something in mind. When you are performing a rhetorical analysis, you're not giving arguments about the topic. You're simply focusing on what the author does. If he or she is effective or not, whether the means of persuasion that he or she used, and whether it did its work somehow. And I also wrote an introduction to an argumentative essay if I were to argue with Lawton, if I were to fight back, because I disagree entirely with because I think that the solution is quite excessive, but you judge for yourself. I'm giving you my notes on the article, and I hope this is going to help. Remember, I see you next Monday, 4 p.m. If you are in doubt about the genre, I'll be more than happy to help you. Thank you.